Hey everybody, Paul here. Welcome to the channel. Since my last video, and that's the one where I touched on one specific requirement to get Mexican citizenship, and that was the testing aspect, and I gave folks a useful resource to help them study for that. Well, since then, I've received numerous questions from people asking about the specific requirements, all of the requirements, to get Mexican citizenship. Apparently there appears to be a lot of confusion out there, and I think that that's really due to the fact that the requirements will differ a bit depending on the circumstances of the particular person. So it's not a one-size-fits-all answer. But don't worry, in this video I'm going to break down the applicable Mexican laws for you, and by the end of this thing you will have a clear understanding of what you will be required to do if you should choose that route. Alright, so let's get started. Based on your particular set of circumstances, you are going to fall into one of three categories: the fast track, the 2-year track, and the 5-year track. FYI, those are not official legal terms. Those are just terms that I'm using to better explain the laws to you. So, we'll start with the fast track. This one is exactly what the name would imply. In the time it takes to do the paperwork and get approved, folks in this group can get their citizenship without taking any exams or even proving that they can speak Spanish. Sounds great, right? This is a very exclusive group with only one real requirement. And that requirement is that one or more of your parents is a Mexican citizen, either by birth or naturalization. If you fall into this category, you can get your citizenship quite easily through the Secretaría de Relaciones Exteriores, or SRE for short. Now, one note about this. If you research this on your own, you are likely to find that one of the requirements is that the parent who is Mexican by birth must also have been born in Mexico. I want to tell you that that's how the law was. On May 17, 2021, Article 30 of the Mexican Constitution was changed to eliminate that additional requirement. So, because things are still showing old information on some government sites, I'm going to include a link to that change. I'm going to put it right in the description portion of this video for you, you folks who need it. All right, so that brings us to the second track, or the 2-year track. Members of the 2-year track must reside in Mexico as a lawful resident, that's as a permanent or temporary resident, for at least 2 years before applying for citizenship, hence the name of the category, the 2-year track. And be one of the following. Number 1, a direct descendant of a Mexican by birth. This is where those folks who couldn't quite get the fast track because maybe their grandparents were Mexican citizens, but their parents were born in the US and never took the steps to get all the paperwork to actually become Mexican citizens, so there's a gap there. Those folks can get in here on the 2-year track. Number 2 on the list is married a Mexican citizen. Number 3 on the list is to have children that are Mexican by birth. Those can be your children or they can be adopted children. Number 4, you're from either a Latin American country or the Iberian Peninsula. What'd you say, Paul? I don't know where the Iberian Peninsula is. Oh, I think you do. It's where you'll find Spain and Portugal. Number 5, you are a foreigner who has provided some service or done some outstanding work that has benefited Mexico in one or more of the following categories: culture, social, science, technology, arts, sports, or even business. So that is a list of the folks who can potentially qualify for the 2-year track. So does that mean they can just fill out some forms and get citizenship? No, that'd be way too easy. Only the folks on the fast track are that lucky. So there are a few more requirements for folks in the 2-year track, and here they are. You must pass a cultural and history test. That's what I talked about in the last video. Now, minors, refugees, and people 60 years of age or over are exempt from this requirement. That's good news. However, there's always bad news after however, they will still have to prove that they know Spanish. Nowadays, this is being done in part with a written exam, and I'll explain that in detail a little later in the video. Here's another requirement. In the 2 years prior to applying for citizenship, you cannot have been outside of Mexico for more than 180 days total. You're going to be required to show all of your entries and exits during that 2-year time frame. Those are the big requirements. Of course, there are forms to fill out and some additional documents to get, like a criminal history check from the Mexican authorities, but that's about it. Now let's move on to the 5-year track. If you did not qualify for either the fast track or the 2-year track, this is where you're going to end up. So in order to qualify for citizenship, you must reside in Mexico as a lawful resident for a minimum of 5 years. Once you've done that, the rest of the requirements are the same as the ones for the folks in the 2-year track. All right, so now you kind of understand the requirements and the 3 categories. Let's talk about those exams again. One of the major stumbling blocks for many people applying for Mexican citizenship is the history and cultural exam and also the Spanish exam. So I'm going to talk about those. First, the history and cultural exam. What this is a 10-question, multiple-choice written test in Spanish designed to test your knowledge of Mexican culture and history. The questions can cover a wide range of subjects, and they are not easy. Here's some examples of some questions you could see on that test. ¿Cuándo se fundó el IFE? ¿Qué presidente fue asesinado en 1928? If you didn't even understand what I said, you're not going to pass this test. You're going to have to know Spanish. You have 10 minutes to complete this test, and you're required to get 8 out of 10 correct in order to pass. If Spanish is not your first language, you're going to have to demonstrate that you know the language. It doesn't have to be 100%. Some people say maybe 60%, something like that. So even if you're exempt from taking that culture and history test because you're over 60, this one's still going to apply to you. So the Spanish exam consists of a brief interview followed by a reading comprehension test. What you'll do is read a text in Spanish and then answer 5 multiple choice questions, also in Spanish. There is also a short writing section. The way that's done is they show you a picture of something. For example, it could be like 3 women dancing, and you'll be asked to write 3 sentences in Spanish about the picture you see. You're only going to have 10 minutes to complete the written portion of this test. Obviously, some of the grading is subjective in that. A maximum score is 6 points, and you are required to get 4 points to pass. If you fail one or more of the exams, you're going to have to make an appointment to return another day to try again. If you fail a second time, your application for citizenship is canceled, and you'll have to wait a minimum of 3 months from that last testing date to reapply, and you reapply from scratch. And that means submitting all the forms again and repaying all of your fees. Well, that's the end of the video. I hope you found it informative. If you did, do me a favor and give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. And until next time, hasta luego.